Are there Are there any techniques in non-duality? Are there any techniques that actually works? In most cases you will, well, that is of course if the answer is honest, you will be told that no, there are no techniques in non-duality. But if we are to loosen that viewpoint, then I would say that there is one technique. One technique, if we were to call it a technique. We could also just simply call it, is there something that I can do if I want to awaken? If I want to awaken out of the dream state, is there something that I can do? Yes, there is something that you can do. Watch your mind. Observe the mind. And for some people, that sounds strange. What do I mean by observing the mind? It is actually much, much more simple than it sounds, or any idea about it that you might have. What do we do when we observe the mind? Observe the stream of thinking. Don't do anything about it. Just simply observe. And then the mind say, why do I have to observe the stream of thinking? But the mind does not know the answer to that question. You see, when you are observing the stream of thinking, you are no longer the stream of thinking. And then the mind says, why do I have to observe the stream of thinking? But that is just another stream of thinking. Observe that. Then the mind says, this is boring. That's just another stream of thinking. Observe that. Then the mind says, how long do I have to observe this stream of thinking? which is just another stream of thinking that the mind is constructing. The mind does not like that. The mind does not like not to be in control. The mind is never in control, but the mind constructs ideas that gives it the impression that it at least could become in control. So when you simply just observe the stream of thinking, observing the mind, you are no longer in the mind. You are no longer being dominated by the mind. You are no longer being possessed by the mind. And the mind does not like that. It becomes fearful, frightened. If you observe the mind, you will start to gain insight into what the mind is consists of, what the mind is made of. The thought stream is revealing that to you. And you will gain a lot of different kinds of insights into how the mind is functioning, just simply by observing it. At some point, it will dawn on you that this stream of thinking pretty much has its own life. That it just simply keeps on going, whether you want it to or not. I am actually pretty sure that you already know that. Observe the mind. Observe what is going on inside it. Observe the thought patterns, for they are patterns. Most of the thoughts, they are, if not all of them, they are a part of a larger pattern. A pattern of different thoughts that are confirming each other. Those thought patterns, they are belief systems. And they are, if they are unobserved, they are what are driving you around, pushing you around, dragging you around. They are what robs you of your freedom. So the technique is simply watch. Find a place where you can be undisturbed by other people. You will you will be disturbed by your own thinking. But find a place where you just simply can sit down without being disturbed. And then observe. You could simply ask the question, what will my next thought pattern, my next thought stream, what will that be? And just simply sit and be quiet. Then at some stage, it will dawn on you, I'm thinking again, and I have actually been thinking for the last minute or so. So don't blame yourself for that. But then look at that thought stream. What was it about? What was the content of that thought stream? Again, do not judge it. Do not do anything. Just simply become aware. What was that thought stream saying? Ah, it was about this and that. Okay, that was the first bit of wisdom. Then put that aside. Then start again. What will the next thought stream be? And then be quiet again. And again, at some stage, you will discover I am thinking again. And I have been thinking for the past minute or so. Okay. So, was it the same thought? Was it a variation? Or was it something completely new? Don't do anything about it. Just simply observe and learn. Learn what it is that is going on. It is, in the end, it is the unobserved mind that robs you of your happiness. It is the unobserved mind that creates all the suffering, or at least a very big part of it. No, it is not what is going on out there in the outer world that is the problem. It is your interpretations of what is going on that creates the suffering. You have to learn about it. Otherwise, it will dictate everything that you think about. It will dictate the content of your thought patterns. And it will rob you of your happiness. It will rob you of your ability to come to learn a deeper truth about what it means to be a human being. it is what will keep you in the dream state. For it is the mind that is dreaming. You might think that the mind can only dream when you are sleeping in your bed, what we call traditional sleep. But then you wake up in the morning and then the mind continues to dream. Just simply because you have never, or most likely nobody has ever told you as directly as I do, that as long as you are not observing the mind, you simply believe that it is you that is thinking these thoughts. But that is super easy to verify, that you are not the thinker of the thoughts. At least not those who are creating themselves automatically. And as long as you are not observing the mind, almost all thoughts are creating themselves automatically. And if you doubt that, then simply test it. Sit down and tell yourself, okay, I will now test whether I am creating my thoughts or if they are creating them by themselves. And then just simply sit down and say, okay, this test is that I will not be thinking for the next 10 minutes. Okay, for the next 5 minutes, for the next minute. For most human beings, for the next 10 seconds. That's the longest that it takes before the thinking starts creating itself again. And I am not judging you. I am not saying that that there is something wrong with you. No, I'm not saying that. It's not your fault. Why it has come to be like this, that is a topic for another video. But right now we are more interested in learning about the nature of the mind. The mind hates silence. The mind hates stillness. The mind gets uncomfortable in silence. The mind gets restless in silence. Observe it. Simply observe it. I said a moment ago that the unobserved mind robs you of your freedom. Why is that? It robs you of any choice Because the thought patterns, they have already made the choice for you. The habitual thinking has already made the choice for you. And you think that that is my choice. No, that's habitual. When the mind is unobserved, the thinking process is automatically, which means that the choices that you supposedly are doing, they are made automatically based upon the belief systems, based upon all the conditioning, the programming of the mind. The mind has a lot of There is a lot of disagreeing about what I am pointing at here. But that's simply the conditioned mind that is disagreeing. And the mind has this intuition that it somehow is dangerous not to listen to the mind. The conditioned mind wants to be the master. And in most cases, it ends up being the master. Not that there are any mastery involved in that. But when I call it the master, the conditioned mind wants to be the master. Perhaps it would be better that I would say the conditioned mind wants to be the controller. And the logic to the conditioned mind is that if I'm not thinking constantly, then I will not be able to control anything. But what can you actually control by thinking? Can you actually control anything by thinking? No, you cannot control anything by thinking. And you would probably have heard me say before that everything that you try to control will be controlling you. If I were to rephrase that, we could say that everything that the mind tries to control will to the mind be interpreted as something that is controlling you. And then the mind doubles down because the mind does not like to be controlled. And then it tries even harder to control everything. And it is caught within a vicious circle. And that is what is robbing you of your happiness. How long do I have to observe the mind before these habitual thought patterns, before they start to change? That is the mind asking that question. The mind could also say, how long do I have to observe myself before I learn to control everything in a new way? I have an answer for you, but not for the mind. Things will start to change if you observe the mind. But I cannot say when. Nobody can say when. And it does not matter, because what I have been describing for you is the only way that you can break the spell, that you can break being possessed by the conditioned mind and its endless, never-ending stream of habitual thinking. So it does not matter how long it takes. Another funny thing is that if you start observing the mind, then after a while, the mind will say, nothing is happening. I expect something to happen. Some grand parade suddenly telling me, now it has happened. That's not the way it works. It is much, much more subtle how you will discover the changes. You see, what will happen is something like this. One day you will be in a situation, a situation that reminds you of other situations. So you have experienced this kind of situation before. It could be some kind of social interaction, a work situation, or a family situation, something of that kind. And then you will be in this situation, and then suddenly, in silence, out of silence, it dawns on you. In situations like this, I used to react in a special way, in a particular way. In situations like this, there used to be an emotional response. But now, nothing. And at that moment, it will dawn on you. The value of observing the mind. For simply in the observing, you are slowly chipping away of the rigid, conditioned mind. And whilst you are chipping away, what you will reveal underneath is freedom, is the happiness that you are longing for. And that freedom and that happiness is a result of you no longer being controlled by the habitual thought patterns. And you will stand there in that situation. And you will have tasted true freedom, true happiness. And at the same time, you know that the freedom and the happiness is not a result of you controlling anything, of you dictating something. No, it will simply be a result of you disidentifying with the thought patterns. As a result of you observing the thinking mind, you see what happens is that you separate yourself from the thinking mind. You simply become an observer of the thought stream. And the more you do this, the more you come to learn that you have actually never really separated yourself from yourself, but that the observing itself is who you are. The quiet space, the unlimited space, the light of consciousness, awareness, you, I, we, the observing itself. Rest as that observing. That is what will cut the energy to the thinking mind. And you will no longer be dominated by the habitual thought patterns, and the mind will become your servant instead. It's a marvelous tool for creativity, for manifesting creativity, for the creativity is who you are, but you can use the mind as a refinement tool in the manifestation process, let's call it that. observe. And it will also dawn on you at some stage that this observing is a miracle, is a cosmic miracle. The, the observing itself is the most miraculous in the entire cosmos. Thank you.